Hello, everyone. Happy to welcome you here for today's webinar, the second webinar of 2018. Facilitate a fun and engaging learning experience with interactive cartoon games. So, hello to everyone. I would like to tell you simply that during the webinar, if you have questions or comments, please feel free to use the chat box, which is what I will be surveying all the way through our webinar today. The other thing that I can tell you is I will be sending you a link for our feedback questionnaire somewhat before the end. And we will be recording this as we do all of our webinars so that it will be available afterwards. I'm going to turn over right now to Lucy Fogarty and Mo Rajan, both of them from Culture Buff Games. Lucy is the founder and CEO, and Mohit is the CTO. Over to you, and let's hear what you have to say.
Thank you very much, Linda. Hi, my name is Lucy. I'm CEO of Culture Buff Games. I'm here in London, and I also have with me Mohit Rajan, our CTO, who is based out of Hyderabad in India. So thank you very much for joining this webinar on how to facilitate a fun and engaging learning experience with interactive cartoon games. Today, we will talk about cartoons and gamification in the intercultural space. This webinar also includes a live demo of Culture Buff Games, which will allow you, the trainer, to assume the role of trainee and to experience the benefits of interactive cartoon games to learn about cultural values. We will also talk about how this tool could be incorporated into your training in order to enhance and to accelerate cultural learning. Let me introduce you to the team. A little bit about me. I'm founder and CEO of Culture Buff Games. I was born in Ireland and have also lived in Japan and the UK. I've been an adult, a youth trainer and a teen trainer for the last 10 years. Drawing on my experience as a cultural trainer, I developed the idea of creating country-specific interactive cartoon games to develop cultural awareness and competence. And in order to transform this idea into a reality, I teamed up with Mohit Rajan, who's a technologist with extensive experience in developing e-learning products. I will now hand over to Mohit, who will introduce himself. Over to you, Mohit. Okay, I think we're having connection problems. So basically, I will just talk a little bit about Mohit. He has lived in the US, the UK, and India.
And thanks, Linda. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you, Lucy. Hello to everybody. This is Mohit Rajan. I would like to thank everybody for attending the webinar.
We obviously have a little bit of technical problem with
connecting with India.
Getting through to us, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll maybe just take over from there. As mentioned, Mo is a technologist. He's lived in the US, UK, and India. He's been a technologist for the last 25 years. He has extensive experience in developing e-learning products. And he's responsible for leading, software development and maintenance for Culture Buff Games. And he's also supported by a development team and a team of cartoonists and intercultural consultants. Okay, so let's talk about how Culture Buff Games was born. So the idea for Culture Buff Games was born out of my experience of working as an intercultural trainer, and from my observations about changes in the training landscape. I noted that millennial learners were looking for actionable and relevant cultural knowledge to quickly thrive in a new culture. And of course, the millennial preference for bite-sized knowledge is also changing the way that we impart cultural knowledge. As an intercultural trainer, I wanted to find a fun and engaging way to teach cultural values to this younger generation. And as visual storytelling is the cornerstone of millennial culture, I decided to use cartoons as a way to arouse curiosity and interest in cultural values. And of course, you see there's a saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words, a cartoon even more. By using cartoons as an educational tool, I found I was able to increase engagement and drive participation in cultural learning. And of course, cartoons also have a universal appeal that transcends generations. I decided to gamify the cartoons, as the millennial generation are digital natives and gravitate towards gamification or experiences with game-like concepts. And gamification, of course, given its interactive nature, induces a spirit of competition and boosts participation in learning. So as you can see, Culture Buff Games is a learning tool that harnesses the power of cartoons and harnesses the power of play. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit more about the games. So they're country-specific interactive cartoon games. Each game has 13 cartoons, and the cartoons illustrate everyday, contemporary life, examples or anecdotes or stories. We also take historical events. So the historical event can illustrate a value or show where illustrate the roots of a value. And we depict the cartoons and the values in different contexts. So let's take the example of American culture. You have values like freedom, can-do attitude, high tolerance for risk. We would we would show many stories for each of these values. And let's say take the value of high tolerance for risk. We could show an example from contemporary Silicon Valley culture with its fail fast, fail often mantra. We could show a contemporary example, and then we could show take a historical example from the Californian gold rush to illustrate the value of high tolerance for risk. So the cartoons are randomized, recursive, and repeatable. So we take, a value like freedom, and we would illustrate it in many different contexts. And each cartoon then is backed up by a detailed explanation. So we go into more detail behind that cartoon and the specific example. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the Culture Buff methodology. So Culture Buff really is learner-driven with discussion facilitated by the cultural trainer. So we want the learner to take responsibility for their own learning journey. We want them to figure out through trial and error, to match a cartoon with a value. And we want the trainer then really to facilitate and open up a discussion and add their depth of experience. So our approach is really show and do as opposed to show and tell. So we show the client the cartoon, ask them to think on their feet and figure out what's happening, and to match the cartoon with the value. And we're doing this because we feel that problem solving drives participation in learning. Okay, so we're going to now have a look at the actual games themselves. We're going to go into a live product demo. So I'm going to take you through the British game. So I will take you through the structure, the screen flow, and the features. And then when we come to the US trial game, we will allow the audience to participate and have a go at matching the cartoon with the value. And in the same way for the Indian game, we will allow the audience to participate. So just bear with me for a moment while I just bring up the games. Okay, so here we have the Britain trial game. So the trial game really is an abbreviated version of the full game. So the full game is 13 cartoons. So we're going to look at 2 cartoons from the Britain trial game. And we actually have 4 games for Britain. So in total, we have 52 cartoons on British values. So
Lucy,
yes?
we can't see the game. We cannot see the game.
Oh, sorry.
I don't think you're sharing the screen.
I have to resume the share.
Go.
Sorry, I paused the share. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mo. So everybody can see the game now. Fantastic. Okay, so this is the instruction screen. So it's the first screen, and it is common to all our games. So the goal, as outlined by the instructions, is to match a cartoon with the value that it best represents. So if you get the answer correct on the first attempt, you're awarded 4 points. And the number of points earned progressively decrease with subsequent attempts. Okay, so I'm just going to go in, and to the second page, we have a disclaimer page. And we have a disclaimer page in every game to make learners aware that the goal of Culture Buff Games is to illustrate the generally accepted values of a particular culture. So the disclaimer conveys that we are making generalizations about a particular culture and its cultural norms. And of course, we acknowledge that a range of perspectives exist within any culture. And of course, there are always exceptions to the rule, and that each person is ultimately unique. So, normally in the course of cultural training, a culture trainer would spend time talking about these sorts of general concepts before you would actually play a tool like Culture Buff Games. Okay, so let's just start the game. Okay, so before we actually go in and match the cartoon with a value, I want to point out a number of features. So on the left-hand side, you have a scoreboard, and we've introduced scoring to induce a spirit of competition and to assess progress. So a trainer will also need to, of course, assess on a case-by-case basis whether to emphasize or to downplay the competitive aspects of scoring. So, for example, when working with a couple, or perhaps maybe with teens with an age difference, a trainer may choose to have the siblings or the couple play the game collaboratively as a team rather than compete against each other. Next, I would like to talk about the level of difficulty. So we have cartoons that are rated according to their level of difficulty. We have two levels, easy and difficult. And although the level of difficulty is subjective, the goal really here is to engender a sense of accomplishment, when a trainee matches a cartoon rated difficult with the correct answer or the correct value. And the difficulty rating too can be used as a yardstick to gauge the progress of non-native English speakers who may find the game a little bit more challenging. And finally, I want to talk about the visual illustrations. So I want to go back to the saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words, a cartoon even more. So images are very powerful. They affect us very quickly, and they stay with us a lot longer. So research shows that after a period of 3 days, we retain 60% of what we see and only 10% of what we hear. So again, after a period of 3 days, we retain 60% of what we see and only 10% of what we hear. So visual illustrations of cartoons boost retention and recall of knowledge. And therefore, cartoons are more powerful as educational tools and more effective than traditional learning methods. So I'll give you a moment to read the cartoon, or if you haven't perhaps read it already. Culture Buff Games really is primarily learner-driven, with a discussion facilitated by the trainer. So the trainer asks the trainee to figure out what's happening in the cartoon and to match the cartoon with one of the 4 available values on the right-hand side. So the trainee really is tasked with problem solving and applying or demonstrating application of knowledge. So the trainee learns through trial and error to figure out what is the correct answer. So let's say the trainee chooses an incorrect answer, they will not be able to move forward. And of course, the system emits a sound. This cartoon here uses humor to illustrate the quirks of the British class system. And once the trainee hits the correct answer, he or she will be taken straight into a detailed explanation about that cartoon. So here the explanation elaborates on the season in Britain, the royal ascot, the dress code, and becoming a member of the royal enclosure. And of course, the trainer can flip back and forth as need be in order to elaborate on any of these particular quirks of the British class system. Okay, so let's just move to the next cartoon. Okay, so again, a single image captures a mini story or an anecdote. And again, the approach is show and do as opposed to show and tell. And again, you need to match the cartoon with one of the 4 available values on the right-hand side. So perhaps I'll just give you a moment to read the cartoon. So problem solving and of course application of knowledge promote accelerated learning. So this particular cartoon illustrates the value of modesty. So the footballer responds modestly to the question regarding his performance and acknowledges twice how much his team contributed to his success. So in Britain, it's important to be modest or at least appear modest. And you will kind of see that from interviewers with footballers. And then the trainer then opens up a discussion. So here, if we choose the correct value of modesty, you go into an explanation around modesty and its importance in British culture, and of course you can flip back to the cartoon. But the trainer then opens up a discussion with the trainee about the value of modesty and how it presents itself in British culture, and then they can also talk about how it presents itself in the trainee's culture. So, the trainer's role really is to open up a dialogue and that deepens understanding and allows a sharing of different sort of perspectives. Okay, so we're going to exit the Britain game. And I'm going to go back in. Let's see. And I'm going to go to the American game. Okay. So now, with the American trial game, the audience will have an opportunity to participate. So the American trial game, again, it has an abbreviated version. It's 2 cartoons, but a full game it would be 13 cartoons. And we have 6 cartoons on American culture, and therefore 78 cartoons on American values. So again, we have the instruction page with an outline of the rules. We go in and you, of course, accept the disclaimer. And now we will just open this up to the audience. Okay. Is Linda there?
She is. What can
Yes.
I read?
So we'd like to bring up I guess the text box and allow the participants to have a go at matching the cartoon with the value, with the correct value.
Okay.
So
what we can say is everyone type in the chat box what the value is that you see.
Okay.
And I saw that there's also Dieter who raised his hand. If you would like to write your question in the chat box, then I can come and look at it, and Lucy will be looking at questions a little bit later.
Okay. I'm just wondering.
So have you got them, Lucy?
Yes, I'm just trying to. Okay,
Yeah.
Perhaps can you read out what the answers are?
Sure. Quite a few of them actually are freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think most of them seem to have got the correct answer. One person, Olga, I believe, said risk-oriented, but for the most part, everybody has answered freedom. Angela Lloyd also typed in risk-oriented, but for the most part, except for these two, I think everybody has typed in freedom.
Yeah, so the correct answer is freedom. And we just go back to the actual cartoon. So live free and die is the motto of New Hampshire. And it comes from John Stark, New Hampshire's most famous revolutionary hero. It's connected with the American War of Independence, the American Revolutionary War. And of course, live free and die is you will see it, still see it in New Hampshire on signposts or on T-shirts or parks or municipal buildings, on bumper stickers. New Hampshire is a state where people pay less tax than other states, and it has a smaller government, so people really value their freedom. And I guess the culture of New Hampshire embodies, I suppose, the state motto, which is, live free or die. Okay. So again, we'd like the audience to have a go at matching, this cartoon with the value. Of course, I think many of you in the audience will be intercultural trainers, so I think you can figure these things out pretty quickly. But obviously, think about it in terms of your clients, and your trainees. So, a lot of the time they're having cultural training for the first time. So we have four.
Excuse me for interrupting you, Lucy, but I do have one comment now that seems pertinent to give it to you right away.
Okay.
Leave the explanations on the back just a little bit longer.
Okay.
People are not having enough time to read them.
Okay, fine. That's good.
Okay. So in terms of the answer, Lucy, to this particular one, a lot of them have said hard work. Some of them have, types in meritocracy.
Okay. So yes, I mean, hard work is the I guess the correct answer, and hard work, of course, it's linked with its historical roots in the Protestant work ethic. And the Protestant work ethic preached salvation through hard work. And of course, work is a large part, in America, work is a large part of one's identity. It's very important. Working hard, I suppose the Protestant work ethic somehow made you a good person. So you see here how the workhorse says, I love my job. So in American culture, there's this pervasive idea that you should love your job. You love, you do what you love, and you love what you do. And of course, this is not always prevalent in other cultures. Sometimes work can be considered a duty. And the other thing I would like to point out is the on the little cartoon, you see how American companies like to reward those who work hard by giving people employee of the month certificates or certificates of excellence, in order to reward those who are doing an outstanding job. So let's wait here. We click on hard work, and it will take you directly to the explanation. So here we'll dwell a little bit longer on the explanation. So these explanations really are there to supplement the cartoon. But I kind of think if you are using this as a cultural trainer, I suppose, you would have played the game a lot of times, and you would have probably internalized this information. And again, as a trainer, you open up a discussion around the value of hard work and what it means in different cultures. What it means. Yeah.
Lucy, Nicole has a question, and the question is, what if you were to click on a different answer other than the correct answer?
Well, if you were to click on a different answer, I mean, well, we've clicked on the correct answer now. It emits an incorrect sound, and ultimately you will not be allowed to proceed to the next cartoon until you get the correct answer. So by process of elimination, you will eventually arrive to the right answer. So you have a 25% chance of getting the correct answer. And sometimes the values are close as well. So there's we're really matching a cartoon with the value that it best fits. So some people may say, oh well, there's a little bit of meritocratic in that cartoon as well, and that's fine. That there's sometimes ambiguity. Okay, let's just go to the Indian game. And again, we're looking at the Indian trial game. So it's an abbreviated version, 2 cartoons. And we have the instruction page, which is common to all the games. And then, of course, you accept the disclaimer page and you start the game. So Mo, if your connection is okay, do you want to talk a little bit about this particular cartoon?
Sure. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you. Linda.
I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, and apologies to everybody. I'm sure I'm sorry. I'm in India and I lost my internet connection, and I'm actually using my phone as a hub right now. Okay, so this is a cartoon called Bollywood Dreams. Uh, Essentially, it's two children, watching a song and dance routine in a Bollywood movie. They are talking to each other, having a little conversation, two little girls, and essentially one of the girls says, when I grow up, I want to be a Bollywood star. The other girl says, me too. So this is basically a cartoon of the aspirational values in India and people looking up to be Bollywood stars. So I'll give you a few moments to take the cartoon in, and again use your chat box to click on the right value, and once you've done that, then I will give you a little more detailed explanation about what Bollywood is all about and how it impacts popular culture in India. Okay, I see quite a few have answered. Achievement, success. I think I guess I gave away the answer a little too early. Okay, yes, so the correct answer is achievement and success. And Lucy, if you could, keep the explanation on as Linda suggested. Okay, so I'm going to give you you can read the explanation while I'm talking. So I'm going to say things a little outside of the explanation to give you a flavor for Bollywood. Now, Bollywood is essentially, a variant, on the word Hollywood. Just as Hollywood derives its name from the city in California where all the actors, these two big studios are based and where the actors and actresses live, so is Bollywood. And essentially, in Bollywood, you've replaced the H in Hollywood with a B. The B here refers to Bombay. And Bombay is essentially the largest city in India. It's the financial capital of India. And it's, that's the former name of Mumbai. Bollywood, the movies that are made in Bollywood are all made in the Hindi language. I don't know if you people know this, but a little bit of trivia. India is the largest producer of movies in the world. There are about 50 movies that are released every Friday, much higher than the movies produced by Hollywood. And Bollywood, has, although it's popular culture, it exerts a very, very strong influence on Indian culture. In fact, it almost impacts all facets of Indian culture. So it's just not the young who are impacted by the latest releases of movies. It's also the olds who watch a lot of Bollywood movies are impacted by the older movies that were made, let's say, 30, 40 years back. Young adults and teens look up to their Bollywood actors, just as, let's say people all over the world do. In America, you have people looking up to Hollywood actors. That's quite similar in India. So you have young adults and Indian teens who look up to Bollywood actors and aspire, again, to be famous and as wealthy as the Bollywood actors. And that's the reason why the answer here is achievement, success. They try to emulate the mannerisms and the clothes worn by the Bollywood actors. And of course, Indians go to great extremes to show their reverence for their Bollywood actors. It's not uncommon in India, and I think Westerners. Yes.
I don't know how it was for everyone, but I was just cut off for like about maybe 45 seconds, a minute. Can we ask participants if it also because it actually crashed for me.
But people are. I have people here saying that they are fine.
Okay.
So no interruption. So people say they hear me loud and clear.
Okay.
So
then it was
okay. So let me.
And that I went down. Sorry for interrupting.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. So just let me continue. What I was saying is that Indians go to great extents, to show reverence, for their Bollywood actors. It's not uncommon in India, to have even temples that are devoted to their favorite Bollywood actors, which I think the Western civilization, people living in Western countries might find taking things a little too far. So it would be right when I say that, Bollywood actors and actresses in India are revered as gods. The richest actor in the world is actually not a Hollywood actor. It's a Bollywood actor by the name of Shah Rukh Khan. And he's, far wealthier than his contemporary or his counterparts in Hollywood. Now, Bollywood, you know, the impact of Bollywood and the influence of Bollywood is just not confined to, let's say, the 1.3 billion Indians. It goes far beyond the boundaries of India. For example, you know, second generation Indians, you know, especially in America and in London and in European countries, you know, essentially keep in touch with your roots through Bollywood movies. So I remember when I was living in India living in America for 18 years, you know, a lot of my friends, you know, their idea of India was what they saw in Bollywood movies. And Bollywood movies are just not watched by the Indian diaspora and Indians living in India. They're all actually quite actively watched by people from all over the world. In fact, there's a huge following of Bollywood movies, let's say in the Middle East and even in Russia. And again, India being a country with all these different languages, different regions in India also have their local variant. Um, Also have their local variant of Bollywood. So, for example, I'm currently based in a place called Hyderabad, which is you know, in Telangana. So I'm in the state of Telangana, which is in southern India, and the language spoken here is Telugu. So they have a local version of Bollywood here that's called Tollywood. Again, the T standing for the language. For example, in the neighboring state you know, of Karnataka, where the language spoken is Kannada, they have their own local version, which is referred to as Kollywood. So you have regional Bollywoods, if you can call it that, in different parts of India. But of course, you know, the biggest industry, which is based in Mumbai, or you know, formerly called Bombay, is Bollywood.
Okay. Shall we move to the next cartoon?
Sure.
Okay, so again, please take a moment just to match the cartoon with one of the 4 available values. So you have achievement and success, unity and diversity, group-oriented, and ingenuity. Okay, over to you, Mo.
Okay, I think Nicole had some really good comments. Nicole, can we wait till we open up the discussion? I think it was Nicola. So Nicola, we'll just wait till we open up the discussion, and and I'll read out your question, and we will give you an answer there. She has some very interesting comments. Okay. Again, you know, this is a cartoon called Polyglot Nation. It has the female embodiment of India, referred to as Mother India. She is draped in the Indian tricolor of saffron, white, and green. As you can see, she's holding the flag, and you see the tricolor there, with the Ashoka Chakra right in the middle. Anyway, I would give you this opportunity to, again, try to match the cartoon with the correct value.
Okay, so what is the common consensus?
Well, Anna Matranga says group oriented. Pascal says unity and diversity. Nancy says unity. Olga says unity. Caroline is again unity. Rana is unity. So we have quite a few unity and diversities.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, the right answer here is unity and diversity. Okay, a little bit of the explanation. Again, you can read the explanation while I talk about this particular cartoon. What I would like to point out over here is that India in reality is an amalgamation, or you could call it a cohesive whole, of various ethnicities, languages, religions, food habits, and many regional cultures. This cartoon illustrates all the different languages that are spoken in India. There are several languages spoken in India. There are actually 780 dialects that are spoken in India, of which 22 major languages are accorded official status. I have Hindi and English. Could you flip back to the cartoon, Lucy?
Yeah, I'm back on the cartoon, yeah? Or the explanation?
Yeah, okay. So, no, go back to the cartoon. Yes.
So I'm on the
I'm
cartoon.
sorry, I'm having a slow connection.
Okay.
So take some time. Okay, so very good. So we have Hindi and English at the very top, and we have Hindi and English at the very top, and there's a reason we have that at the top of the cartoon. India, unlike most of the countries, does not have a national language, although Hindi and English are considered the official languages. Below Hindi, you have the language Sanskrit. Now, Sanskrit is considered one of the oldest languages in the world. It is, its use has declined over the last 4,000 or 5,000 years. It is not used as a way of communication in everyday life. It's essentially a liturgical language. So basically, all the hymns and the old scriptures were written in Sanskrit. So if in India, we have ceremonies around the birth of a child or death or a wedding. It's only at that time that the Hindu priest is essentially singing these hymns, and that's done in Sanskrit. Hindi is the language the most widely spoken in India, predominantly in the north and the central regions of India. In the 5 southern states of India, you have 4 different languages. So just to quickly go through them, in Tamil Nadu, Tamil is spoken. In Telangana, where I am, they speak Telugu. In Andhra Pradesh, they speak again Telugu, because Telangana and Andhra Pradesh used to be one state. They were recently bifurcated. And as a result of that, they speak the same language. In Kerala, they speak Malayalam. So all the languages that are spoken in the 5 southern states of India, the 4 different languages, are distinct languages, and they're Dravidian languages.
Okay, I think we're losing the connection, yeah? Okay. We'll just perhaps maybe we'll just leave the Indian game, and we'll get back to perhaps opening up a discussion. Linda?
Are we ready for our question then?
Yes, I think, because I think we have connection problems with India, so therefore I think we have to cut short the Polyglot Nation.
Thank you. So
Okay.
everyone, Lucy and Mo have a question for you that they'd like you to answer in the chat box, if you will, and then we'll be looking at your comments. And the question is, how would a cultural trainer incorporate this tool into a cultural training? And I'll let you answer.
Yeah, so
let you write your questions, I guess I need to say, excuse me.
Yeah, so there are various ways a trainer can do that. It could simply be used as a tool to teach values during face-to-face training, whether you're doing that with a couple or with an individual. And ideally, if you would probably play 2 games, and that would give you a good overview of, let's say, Indian values or British values or American values. It could also be used in a summative capacity. So let's say you're teaching values using the traditional kind of dimensions, let's say on a 2-day training, and then you might use this tool really to assess whether the clients can actually apply knowledge. And of course, if you spent the time talking about it, then they should be able to go through it, reasonably quickly. It could also be used as a formative assessment tool. So let's say you were doing working with Indians, working with British, working with Americans. This tool could be given to employees before the training, and they as a way for them to get a good grounding in the general values. So when they go to a working with training, or working with Indians, working with Americans, therefore they have a good grounding in the values, and the discussion then in the training can be more fruitful and more interesting. Because of course the values in business come from general values, and it could also be used as a tool during face-to-face remote coaching, as a tool to teach values, and it's particularly good for non-native English speakers, because they can read it and they can take the time to figure out, and it makes it it makes it kind of fun and engaging. So those are the various ways, a trainer could use it. But I mean, really it's a trainer's judgment call, depending on the clients you're working with and sort of, the type of training. Okay. So Linda, do you have other questions? I'll continue to play the game while waiting for other questions.
Yes, we'll look at the questions in just a minute. I'm sorry, what did you ask me if I would? We have the comments by Nicolas about the question of, was this possibly speaking to a single narrative? So maybe I'll let you answer that while we look at the rest of the questions.
Yes, I don't quite understand what you're asking. What?
The idea, as I understand it, and of course, Nicolas, please give us maybe more information in the chat box here. I believe it's the idea of which India, which US.
Right. So Lucy, I think what Nicola is saying is that in the intercultural field, we have kind of moved beyond conflation of nation to national culture. So she's saying, there is the danger of conflating culture with the country, correct? So she's saying, with your cartoons, which America, which India, and which Great Britain do these cartoons truly illustrate or depict?
Well, I think they depict a variety of values in action, so to speak. So we're taking examples from the culture and they're matching them up with the values. Value. I mean, culture is really a set of ideas, and then so we have a variety of I suppose examples from the culture. So let's in British culture, you could, the class could be presented. It could be somebody, you could have a working class example. You could be somebody from upper middle class. So we have a variety of, I suppose, ideas that we're taking from the culture.
Okay, we have more than one person who has asked how many games you have. Okay, we've seen India, US, and UK.
Yeah, so we have, we have 6 games on Indian and American culture, 4 games on British culture, and 4 games on Indian culture.
Yeah, and to answer that question, Linda, I think I also answered in the chat box, but we also are in the process of releasing China and Japan, with China coming next. So right now we have 3 countries, as Lucy said, 6 games for America, 4 games for Britain, 4 games for India, with China and Japan coming soon.
Okay, and we have a question. You are not targeting a specific group, or there is no specific target group that you're thinking of with these games? In other words, it's not the US or, I don't know, the Chinese, or that's what I understand in the question.
The games are really education tools for anybody who wants to learn about a particular culture and its cultural values. So this is really a series about values, American values, British values, Indian values. So you could be moving to that country, or you could be relocating for work, for study. It could be a corporate, it could be students, it could be refugees, it could be anybody who wants to learn about a culture's values. So these are games that particularly they teach you about general cultural values, and we will develop series as well in future on working values too.
Right. And Lucy, I just want to interject for a second. Nicola Hale has also asked, I mean, do you think students would like this?
Definitely, yes. I mean, because the thing is that the game really was inspired, by my experiences as an intercultural trainer, but also by a younger generation, a millennial generation, who, who, love images and also love gamification. So so it was kind of inspired by what's happening with this generation and how they like to receive content um, and knowledge, but it also, the cartoons by themselves have a universal appeal and transcend generations. So yes, millennials, what the average age is 30, but you can still be 40 and play this game. There's
Yeah.
there's a lot anybody can learn, really.
Yeah, and Lucy, let me just, there's one more question from Anne. Yeah, Anne, to answer your question, the question that Anne is asking is, can you give us some examples of the same value in different contexts as was mentioned earlier? So maybe I could answer that question.
Okay.
So Anne, we showed you the cartoon of the high tolerance for risk. The enormous amount of financial risk, let's say, and this is pertaining to American culture now. So in a contemporary setting, the high tolerance for risk was illustrated or depicted via a fail fast, fail often behavior that the entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley exhibit. They take on enormous amount of financial risk, wanting to disrupt the future. So the same value, high tolerance for risk, we have, for example, depicted in other games. One example would be wildcatting in Texas, looking for oil, where people bet their last cent trying to find oil, let's say in East Texas, or as Lucy mentioned, the California gold rush, where people took enormous financial hardships, moving from, let's say, Eastern United States in 1849 to Western United States, panning for gold. So, I hope that answers your question. So, essentially, the same value is presented several times, iteratively, repeatedly. Essentially, what we're doing over here is that we are leveraging the power of the benefits of spaced repetition. So you'll see that in all our cartoons. We have X number of values in a game, and we recommend that you buy 2 or 3 games if you actually want to see this, because we have a lot of values, and to really see the same value presented in a different context, you would have to buy more than 1 game, because our games only have 13 cartoons each.
And I suppose the idea, of 13 games, 13 cartoons, that you would take a break perhaps after, playing this with a trainee, because you would be having discussion as well around the cartoon.
Oh, the question. Okay, go. Another question here is from Monica Kraus. She says, "How much are the games?" This is. We're going to get there, but I'll answer that question. In terms of pricing, Monica, you can go to the website, and if you click on the Buy Games page, you will see, what we are charging per game. Right now, our games are priced at $10 per game for a 3-month license, and $20 for a year-long license. And if you're an intercultural trainer, you can use these games as many times as you want. As Lucy mentioned before, the cartoons are presented, in a random order. So if you bought a 3-month license and you were using this for your training, the cartoon will be presented in a different order. So you can play the games as many times as you want. So to answer your question, $10 for a 3-month license and $20 for a year-long annual license, regardless of the series. So the same price for American games, British games, and Indian games. Another question is, do you have to have internet access in order to use these games? Yes, the answer to that is emphatic yes. These are cloud-based games, so you would need internet. You would need internet access. We are in the process of creating applications, apps. We are hoping that in the process of creating apps, you would be able to, once you're paid for the game, you'd be able to access them offline too. But right now, you would need an internet connection, not a very strong one, but you would need an internet connection. And while I'm talking about that, another thing I want to mention is that Our games are device agnostic. You can play it on an iPad, you can play it on a tablet, on an Android operating system, you can play it on your laptop, on your mobile phone. So the technical word for that is our games are responsive. So any device, any browser, you could play the games. You should not have any problem. Another question from Ami Shah is, does the game reset every time you use it? Yes, it does. So even if you played the game halfway through and went back to your user dashboard, it will start from scratch. And again, it will be a completely different order. And again, we're doing this to maintain a spirit of competition. Okay, if you have no more questions, we have 4 minutes left. So maybe we could go to the slide. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Okay, maybe I can talk about this.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. So again, if you go to our website, culturebuffgames.com, that you see at the very bottom, you can sign up for a free trial, a 5-day free trial. It's there for 5 days. It costs nothing. You can buy a British trial, a US trial, or a UK trial. Right now, we have restricted access to our trials of one trial per email ID. So if you want, let's say, 2 trial games, you would have to have 2 separate email IDs. Once you sign up for a trial, we have what is called we have the user dashboard. You can go purchase games. So once you log in and buy a trial, you can buy as many games as you want. A little bit about the prices again. As I said, it's $10 for a 3-month license, unlimited access during the subscription period, and the same thing for the annual license is $20 per game. And we have 6 games for America, 4 for Britain, and 4 for India.
Okay, and there's a question here. Could maybe be our last question, and then I have a few last-minute announcements. It says, when you have a license for a year, how can you facilitate trainees who want to try out the game themselves? In other words, I guess the question is, how do you transfer from my contract to letting people use it? Is there a number?
Well, I guess that would be, I mean, if a company wanted to use the games, then that would be, I suppose, something that we would negotiate with the company. Yeah. Or if you're an independent culture, trainer, I guess we've designed it for it to be used by intercultural trainers. But if a company wants to use it, then we would need to speak about that with the company. Yeah.
Another question from Marlene. Could I get a heads up when the trial for the China game is ready? I would say it'll be about a couple of months. We are in the process of building our Chinese cartoons. So I would say in a couple of months we should be up and running with our Chinese games. And at a bare minimum, we expect to have 4 Chinese games. That'll be 52 cartoons. Okay, Rana says, this is fantastic. I really like this tool. Thank you.
So I guess that it's time to more or less buckle this up. Did you have last questions you wanted to answer? I wanted to, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Is it all right? Did you have last comments you want to make? People are beginning to leave.
Yes.
I see, and I wanted to just thank everyone for being here. I wanted to obviously announce that our next webinar will be on the 22nd of March at 6 p.m. It's with Helen Sayers, and she will be talking about Ubuntu, exploring the spirit of humanity, the creative art of building bridges between communities. Would you like to say goodbye, Lucy and Mohit?
Yes, thank you very much for your participation. And yeah, we really appreciate you taking the time to learn about cartoons and gamification. And we'd really appreciate if you could sign up for a trial and just play the game for yourself. And thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Hello, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay, we have a problem because it's still recording. It's Steve who turned, Steve who turned the recording on. Can we
Okay.
log off and come back on to talk?
Sure.
Yes, we could do that. Yes. So we leave this meeting and come back on.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.